You've probably felt it. The city, it's changing. For sale signs are starting to pop up in places that you haven't seen in quite some time. Your friends or your coworkers, they're talking about leaving. Or maybe you're the one who's quietly wondering, is it time for me to actually leave Toronto? In 2024 and in 2025, we've started to see a major shift here. A lot of people are cashing out, they're moving on, and not just out of their condos, but entirely out of the city. So in this video, we're going to deep dive why people are actually leaving Toronto right now, where they're going instead, and just as importantly, why some people are actually choosing to stay in Toronto. So let's get into the video here. We're going to start off with what I'm seeing on the ground level here. Conversations I'm having with some of my clients, family, and friends. They can't afford it in Toronto. It's brutal, obviously. The cost of living has gone up significantly. The traffic, it's brutal, and you don't feel safe downtown, not nearly as much as you once did. They always talk about needing more space. This is the ongoing conversation in the downtown area, and the city, it's not going to give you more space. That's just not something that it necessarily is going to offer. These are everyday concerns, and they're starting to pile up. I did work with a family recently in the North York area, and they had 2 kids, both parents. They actually worked decent jobs, but even with the combined 6-figure income, they were stuck. 2-bedroom condo, and they couldn't afford to move up in the city. Leaves you with that question. They ended up actually selling and buying a detached home. They ended up leaving outside the GTA and going to the Guelph area. In Guelph, they were able to get quieter street, bigger yards, schools that were closer by, and they said the stress in their house actually dropped by half overnight. Now, maybe they're exaggerating just a little bit, but I've also had first-time buyers tell me that they've stopped even looking in Toronto altogether. They're skipping the city altogether and heading straight to places like Waterloo or Barrie, and sometimes, if they're able to, they will go on the Durham side of things. And what it really comes down to is affordability. The average home price in Toronto right now is still around $1.1 million. That's for everything. Condos, semis, detached. It's an all-around average, of course, but if you want a detached home right now, you're pushing $1.4 to $1.5 million easy. And for what? Small lot, outdated finishes, maybe no parking in Toronto still. That same money is going to go a lot farther. It might get you a brand new home if that's something you're interested in outside the city. You can go even further and get even more land. If you want to go as far as London, you can go out that way and get a ton of property if that's something that appeals to you. People have started to do the math, and these are the decisions that they're making. The second reason is the traffic and the commutes. Toronto is just ranked the most congested city in North America. Rush hour speeds are averaging less than 20 kilometers an hour. Yes, that's, we can go for a jog a little bit faster than that. And thinking about a 10-kilometer drive is going to take you 30 minutes at that pace. So transit, it's no better. TTC riders are spending an hour almost commuting on average. That's 2 hours of your life every single day just sitting in train or transit. And the perception of safety right now in the city is another big concern for people. Statistically, Toronto is relatively safe compared to other cities. But when you keep hearing about random attacks on transit, carjacking, smash and grabs, the perception starts to change over time. And people don't want to raise their kids in a place where they don't feel safe, even if the actual risk itself is minuscule at the end of the day. Property taxes in Toronto, they have been extremely low for quite some time, but property taxes, they've gone up almost 25% in the past 3 years. And between the city, land transfer tax, vacant home tax, inflation on groceries, gas, daycare, Toronto's not as easy on the wallet as it once was for people. Some folks are asking, what am I exactly paying for here? I'm paying for all of this, but what am I getting? And finally, the fifth reason, a lot of people, especially post-COVID, they're craving more space, calm, more sense of community, and they want a backyard. They want a garage. Maybe they want a slower pace of living. And with remote and hybrid work still being fairly popular with some companies, it's giving them more options when they're thinking about where could I actually live, because my work, I don't have to drive there as often as I once did. I don't have to live in the city anymore. Now let's look at what the numbers are actually saying right now. In 2023 alone, over 69,000 people left Toronto for other parts of Ontario. Let me say that again. Nearly 70,000 people actually moved out of Toronto and stayed in the same province. That's not even counting the tens of thousands of people who've moved to Alberta or the East Coast. And that's not just retirees. That's a huge portion of people who are in their 20s and their 30s, prime young working years, young families, people who are future taxpayers on the housing side, Toronto market has cooled off extremely. And when it comes to sales to new listings ratio, we're down 30% right now in the Toronto market. It's a buyer's market in almost every housing category, and homes are taking a lot longer to sell than they once would. 33 days right now is what we're talking. Average day on market across the board. And prices, you've seen it in the other videos, they've definitely come down. Condos are especially taking a hit compared to other housing categories. Inventory is up, buyers are cautious, and many units have been sitting there even though they're priced aggressively for months on end. We're even seeing some resales at the moment. They're trading 2019 prices, which is insane because a lot of these people are people who bought them after 2019. And this is wiping out all of the COVID gains that we might have seen in the real estate market. Buyers, they have options, a ton of options. Sellers, they need to compete when it comes to pricing, making sure their property looks top tier. Otherwise, the house is not going to move at all. What is this ultimately meaning for anybody who's thinking of maybe leaving Toronto? Where are they going? Well, they're staying within Ontario, a big portion of them, right? 69,000 left in 2023, and most of them stayed. Kitchener, Cambridge, Barrie, Oshawa, Durham, London, Guelph, you name it, they're staying within Ontario, and they're not necessarily leaving the province. In those cities, you can get detached homes, semis, from the $700,000 to $900,000 range, sometimes less, depending on what the house actually looks like. That's a massive difference from what you're going to pay in Toronto, and you're not sacrificing quality of life because a lot of these places are no longer the boonies, quote unquote. A lot of them have all of the amenities that you're looking for. You're just talking about value for dollar and if it makes sense for you at the end of the day. Outside of Ontario, Alberta's become a very popular destination, although very cold, and a lot of the people in the comment section have let me know it's cold all the time. But we still have people from Ontario who are choosing that as their ultimate destination. Now, the reason why is there's lower housing prices and there's big job markets. You can still get a detached house in Edmonton for under $500,000 in some cases, and that's unheard of in Toronto. The East Coast, Halifax, even parts of Newfoundland, they also saw a migration boom coming from the Ontario side of things during COVID, but it started to die off in the recent months here. So what does this actually mean for Toronto as a whole? If you're a homeowner, still a great time for you to sell the property if it's marketed well. You're sitting on tons of equity potentially. There's buyers out there, but the window of opportunity, it can shrink if more inventory does pile up on the detached and semi-detached side of things. Then we'll end up in the same situation we are with the condos just sitting and sitting and sitting. This right now is a good time for you to list a property that is a detached or semi-detached. There is no question about it. Now, this video is not about fear. It's about clarity. People are leaving Toronto. It's in the numbers. It's not something that is a guess at the end of the day here. Some people are just frustrated. The prices, the traffic, the change in the actual city itself. But Toronto, it's not over. It's always going to be a very popular city. It's one of the top cities in the world. And the question is, does the version of Toronto that's there today actually work for you? A lot of people are still going to say yes. They're going to say we've got the sports teams, we've got different neighborhoods that are extremely multicultural. You've got the festivals, you've got the markets, you've got the waterfront. But others will say I can get all of that by commuting to the city when I want to do those things. At the end of the day, everybody is going to have their personal reasons on why it makes sense to stay or leave the city. There's no one size fits all answer here, but understanding the full picture and understanding why people are actually leaving is what this whole video is about. I hope this video helped you kind of see things from the different sides, whether it makes sense to leave, whether maybe staying makes more sense based on what you're going to get to stick around in the city. And if you're thinking of leaving Toronto, you're just figuring out what makes sense for you, you can always click the pinned comment down below. I do have a free guide for you to navigate selling your home in a market like today. Thank you so much for watching this video, but before you click off, if you're interested in seeing why people are leaving either Brampton or Mississauga, these are videos that you might want to take a look at as well. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.